We're ready whenever you are.
Okay, thank you very much, Hope. Well, welcome everybody. And this is the agenda for the public hearing, read bylaw number 581, 2022, which is a detached secondary suite regulation. It's Monday, July 18th at 2022. And I just want to make an acknowledgement that we do acknowledge with gratitude that we work, live, and play on the traditional unceded territory of the Squamish Nation, whose peoples have been looking after this land for millennia. Thank you. The first item of business will be Mayor Ander will describe the procedural rules of the public hearing. You can hear me all right?
Yes. Yep.
Super. This public hearing is convened in order to consider and receive submissions relating to Bowen Island Municipality Land Use Bylaw number 57, 2022, Amendment Bylaw number 581, 2022. Anyone who believes that their interest in property is affected by the proposed bylaws will be given a reasonable opportunity to present verbal or written submissions respecting the matters contained in the proposed bylaw. No one will be discouraged or prevented from making their views heard. To maintain order during the public hearing and to ensure everyone has a reasonable opportunity to be heard, the following rules of procedure have been established. To address a public hearing, speakers must register their name on the speakers list. Speakers may add their name to the list at any time during the course of the public hearing. If speaking from prepared remarks, please send a copy by email to the corporate officer for inclusion into the public record of the public hearing. Speakers must commence remarks by stating their name. If speaking on behalf of another person or organization, the speaker must identify the name of that person or organization. There will be 3 calls for public submissions, verbal and written. Each speaker may only speak once during each call for a maximum of 5 minutes to a maximum of 3 calls for a total of 15 minutes. Speakers will be called in the order in which they appear on the speakers list. Speakers must limit their commitments to the proposed bylaw and must not repeat statements they already presented. All speakers must be respectful of others and ensure that comments address the specific issue being considered. Inappropriate language or behavior will not be tolerated. Applauding, interrupting, etc. The chair may remove a member of the public from the public hearing at their discretion. All verbal and written submissions must be received by council before the close of the public hearing. Members of council are not permitted to receive further submissions regarding the proposed bylaw after the public hearing has closed. Submissions received after the close of the public hearing will be circulated to staff for information. Council is considering the proposed bylaw have received documents which may inform its decision. All documents related to the public hearing received by 4 p.m. of the day of the hearing are available for review during the public hearing via the hearing agenda. All correspondence received after 4 p.m. before the close of the public hearing are included in the revised public hearing agenda. All verbal submissions at the hearing are summarized in the public hearing minutes. Please observe the rules of procedure, and if you have any concerns with the manner in which the public hearing is conducted, please direct your comments to the corporate officer. Thank you very much. And we'll move on to the purpose of the bylaw. Proposed bylaw number 581, 2022, cited as Bowen Island Municipality Land Use Bylaw number 57, 2002, Amendment Bylaw number 581, 2022. And the proposed amendment to the land use bylaw affects detached secondary suites. The proposed changes include increasing the maximum floor area for the suite, removing the minimum lot size, and an amendment to development permit guidelines to consider the location impact on neighbors. And we'll go to number 3, which is a presentation, Manager of Planning and Development. Overview of bylaw number 581. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Ander. So I'll give you a brief background of the bylaw process, and comments received to date. All right. So bylaw number 581 would make 3 changes. So it would amend the regulations for detached secondary suites by removing the requirement for a minimum lot size for a detached secondary suite, and by increasing the maximum floor area. So the current maximum is 65 square meters plus a percentage of lot area to a maximum of 115 square meters. And bylaw 581 would increase that to the same ratio, but to a maximum of 140 square meters. And finally, the bylaw 581 would amend the development permit guidelines for detached secondary suites by including a guideline about the siting of the detached secondary suite. So in our current regulations in the land use bylaw for accessory residential use of secondary suites is section 3.57. So this is the current regulations in our bylaw. And so the change would be to that number 3 would increase the total floor area based on the percentage, and it would remove the required minimum lot size. So other regulations, such as the total number of suites permitted on a property, the parking requirements, or the size of attached secondary suites would not change as a result of this bylaw. In terms of just overall bylaw background, so council gave direction to staff in October of 2021 to review minimum lot sizes. Staff brought a report regarding changes to minimum lot size in January of this year. And in April, council gave direction to staff to prepare an amendment bylaw for the minimum lot sizes. On May 24th, council gave first reading to bylaw 581, and on June 25th, council gave second reading to bylaw 581. In terms of results for referrals, bylaw 581 was referred to the Islands Trust Executive Committee, and at their June 8th meeting, they adopted the motion that the bylaw 581 is not contrary to or at variance with the Islands Trust policy statement. The Housing Advisory Committee considered this bylaw most recently at their May 30th meeting, and at that point, they supported the removal of the minimum lot size for detached secondary suites and did not support the, at that point, proposed prohibition of residential guest accommodation. And the Advisory Planning Commission considered this bylaw most recently at their June 6th meeting. And at that point, and they supported land use bylaw, amendment bylaw 581. We held 2 open houses on the proposed bylaw in June of this year. So one via Zoom and one in person. So we had 10 attendees at the Zoom open house and 8 at the in-person open house. Letters were included in the background information. And as of July 15th, we had received 1 letter following second reading included in the agenda. And I believe more have been included in the updated agenda. And just in terms of bylaw amendments to this bylaw, so at first reading, bylaw 581 included a prohibition on residential guest accommodation use in accessory residential units. So based on feedback received, council removed the proposed prohibition prior to consideration of second reading. And secondly, at first reading, council also amended the maximum floor area permitted, so increasing the amount from 115 to 140 square feet. And that is the end of my presentation. Right.
All right, thank you very much, Daniel. And we'll move on to public submissions, and I will call for any public input. Do we have anything on the books there? Anybody wants to speak?
We do.
Thank you.
Starting with Heather Hodson, who I believe is on Zoom. Heather, you can unmute and start your camera if you're there.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's see, Heather, thank you.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Good afternoon, Mayor, Council, and staff. I am here to express my opposition to the proposed BIM bylaw amendment regarding the detached secondary suites. This proposal appears to me to be a knee-jerk and potentially ill-fated response to the startling lack of affordable housing on Bowen. The situation did not happen overnight, nor should this short-sighted remedy by staff and council be considered a viable quick fix to an ongoing complicated problem, that is not unique to Bowen. We are not alone. There is a critical shortage of affordable housing in most communities in Canada and indeed throughout North America and beyond. I'm sorry?
It's okay, go ahead.
It is simply wishful thinking to assume that the majority of property owners who decide to build an additional suite on their loft will be offering long-term housing to those people who cannot afford to build, buy, or even stay on Bowen. The added strain on the ferries, sewers, increased staff workload, and most crucially, the water supply is obvious. What are the short and long-term gains here? And more importantly, for whom? Do we want Bowen Island to become the Airbnb destination getaway of choice for Vancouverites and on TripAdvisor? Second issue I want to bring up is the timing of this amendment. Now, I understand this is the third reading, which I have not been following this closely until the last few days. But why is this council just 4 months shy of the end of their 4-year term bringing this controversial issue up for hearing in the middle of the summer? I mean, it's summertime. Well, sort of, right? We're trying, maybe tomorrow. And folks are catching up on well-deserved holiday time with friends and loved ones, both here and elsewhere off the island. They are especially not thinking about Bowen Island bylaw amendments right now, especially this one. So in my opinion, there's no need to rush this amendment through in haste. So again, why now? We need to slow down. This issue is far too critical to the future of Bowen Island and deserves rigorous input from the entire community, as well as knowledgeable stakeholders, as it will change the vitality and dynamics of this island, perhaps forever. Please let the next elected council continue grappling with our housing issues so that more creative and dynamic ideas can be brought to the table to solve our community housing needs. Thank you.
Thank you, Heather.
Next, we have Rosemary Knight.
Okay, welcome, Rosemary.
Hi, Gary, or I should say Mayor. Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. So I'm here to strongly oppose the proposed amendment to the land use bylaw. Yes, we need to do something about affordable housing, but to rush forward with this proposal when the negative unintended consequences could be huge, like really huge, is not wise. The reasoning behind the proposed amendment, as I understand it, if we allow detached suites on all lots, we will get long-term rentals. Even if that was true, I'm still opposed to this. This increase in structures, this increase in people, where is the careful analysis of the impact on water, waste management, traffic, schools, childcare, ferries, our fire department, our police department? Allowing this increase in number of residential units, in number of people, will fundamentally change forever this island at both the neighborhood scale, and we love the way our island neighborhoods function. It will have a huge impact at the neighborhood scale, and it will have a huge impact at the island-wide scale, impacting both people and environment. And then we have the feedback from the Housing Advisory Committee, suggesting that even if we do this, allow all these detached suites, it is in fact unlikely to create long-term rentals given the cost of building. So now what we have is a proposal that allows detached buildings as short-term rentals on all lots. Well, what does this give us? It gives us a huge impact on this island with no real progress on affordability. I've heard it said that short-term rentals help affordability by being a mortgage helper, but that is really flawed reasoning. If you look at the real estate ads, the moment there is a mortgage helper, that's advertised mortgage helper. So the property value goes up. So the housing costs go up. This amendment does little in terms of sustained affordability, which is what we need. It might result in financial gain for the current owner, but that's it. And at what irreversible long-term cost to this island. So that is why I am here in strong opposition, really deeply concerned about the irreversible long-term cost to this island and the lack of analysis of the impact of this amendment on our social and natural systems. I feel like we're taking on this experiment and it could go seriously wrong. So I ask you, please, to not support this amendment. Please don't do this to our island. Thank you.
Thank you, Rosemary. Oh,
Next, we have Bob Turner.
okay.
There you go.
Howdy doody.
Hi, Bob.
Mayor and Council, Bob Turner here. Good to see you all. To start, I'd like to say that I oppose the amendment bylaw 581, and here's why. And I say this, with deep sincerity. Simply put, I really don't believe that Bowen Island Council has the ethical or moral authority to make this fundamental change to the Bowen Island community without an additional amendment to the Bowen Island Official Community Plan. Like, while the title of this bylaw suggests that this land use amendment is just about secondary suite regulation, it misses a much bigger point, and that is that this bylaw, by its actions, increase the allowed number of sort of residential structures on Bowen Island by over 500 structures, or that essentially 47%. And then coupled with the 2017 land use bylaw amendment by the previous council that never had an OCP amendment, that allowed an additional residential units on larger lots, the increase in the total number of allowed Bowen residential units since 2017 would be 100%. I mean, that is clearly in the territory of official community plan purview. If I was sitting on council today, I could not in good conscience support this fundamental change to the residential density and to the community's basic structure without the extra community scrutiny and due diligence that should come with an OCP amendment process. This proposed change to Bowen Island is just too big, too much to be hidden away within a land use bylaw amendment that suggests this change is only about the management of secondary suites on the island. And I'm not arguing that such a change for Bowen Island is either good or bad in terms of where we're going with managing affordability, only that the potential impact of this proposed amendment is far-reaching, and I believe well beyond the scope of the community review to date of the draft land use bylaw that's been received. Detached units, whether for long-term rental or short-term vacation or personal family use, are residential units. The number of residential units fundamentally governs the number of people on Bowen Island. It's the fundamental metric that is the primary factor that determines environmental impact, greenhouse gas production, infrastructure requirements. The human population that is essentially enabled by those housing units is the key metric for all those key factors, those key island metrics. So fundamental changes to these metrics are matters of the official community plan, not of land use bylaw amendments. To overlook this, to my mind, is to miss the forest for the trees. And for example, to sort of put a sharper point on sort of what has been involved in this review, I point this out only to acknowledge that when we're trying diligently to solve a problem, any of us, and I underline any of us, can focus our attention too closely and miss the unintended consequences. In the planner's report of January 10, 2022, on the discussion of impacts of a change in minimum lot size, there is a statement under the heading ecological considerations. And under that header of ecological considerations is the statement, no direct ecological or climate impacts are expected. No direct ecological climate impacts are expected. Well, we could discuss the word direct and the nuances of that, but I would simply say, I challenge that statement. The potential construction of hundreds of new structures over a number of years does have a significant ecological and climate impact on the footprint of disturbed land, on the use of the embedded construction materials, on the additional community infrastructure required. So I'll leave it at that. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Bob.
Next, we have Anne.
Okay. Welcome, Ann.
Good afternoon. Your worship and councillors. So I'm talking on behalf of Aldea and myself. Are we once again on Bowen Island forcing a conflicting solution of a bylaw amendment created by municipal council and the municipal staff regarding detached secondary suites and short-term rental? Allowing the development of detached secondary suite up to 1,500 square feet on every lot, regardless of their size, is contrary to the controlled population growth of the OCP necessary to maintain the quality of life on the island. Such developments should be the exception and not the normality, and allowed case by case, given a justifiable variance. If considered as helping to build affordable housing units greatly needed, such developments should only be permitted at proximity of commercial areas of snug coast where shopping and going to the ferry do not necessitate a mean of transportation. Bowen Island does not have the required infrastructure of roads, water supply, and sewage disposal space necessary for the general increase of secondary suites development suggested by some elements of the public and by the Housing Advisory Committee. For those who believe that it would provide a mortgage helper, building secondary suite for short-term rental does not make common sense, given the number of years it will take to recover that cost of the building at today's rate, and given the increase on their property tax that such a development will generate for all in rising property value. We do not appreciate the biased approach of this bylaw amendment proposal. After having suffered from the similar strategy regarding the use of a chop to allow a commercial venture in a zoning restricting it, with the justification of helping the tourist industry everywhere on the island. Again, with a very irregular public money transfer being provided to facilitate private interests and make possible the improvement of the Snugcourt sewage plant by all taxpayers not so long ago. We asked Mayor and Council to justify clearly their choice of consideration regarding short-term rentals and secondary suite development to protect the quality of life of permanent residents of the island, and to help restoring the long-term affordable rental accommodation that used to be available in the past decades before short-term rentals, particularly Airbnb, became the normality. And I want to add that I agree completely with what Bob Turner just said, that we have to take into account the ecological impact on our island, and just a small amount is like the sewage disposal, human disposal. Thank you.
Thank you, Ann.
Ross McDonald.
Greetings.
Can you say
Sure.
the name again?
My name,
Can you? Yes, please.
Ross McDonald.
Thank you.
This was just drawn to my attention a day ago, actually, and I feel badly I haven't been involved further. It's gone so far along, and so I'm going to be very brief and apologize that I'm not better prepared and try not to repeat what's already been said. One of the things that has been addressed is the issue of the impacts on various facilities and infrastructure on Bowen, in which I would include the septic capacity of the island and the daycare and school capacity, and the capacity of the muni administration to deal with what's all going to be involved in that. In fact, you know, in many places, my background is in planning and development in cities like San Diego, Phoenix, Calgary, Vancouver, and smaller places. So in those places where there's a development that's, say, more than 2 or 3 lots, larger developments, you have to have an impact statement, and that impact statement is required, and it covers all of these areas and more. And so, and I've got to say that, you know, in all of those places, I've never seen such a big idea with such little understanding. You know, this isn't just increasing the density. This is increasing the population. Has anybody looked at what the sort of population implications would be if this rezoning of the entire island is carried out and is executed by property owners? And you know, Bowen Island's treasure is really its environment, its social environment, its natural environment, and its zoning. That's our treasure. That you know, and it's limited. We're an island, and giving it all away willy-nilly without really knowing what you're getting for it, it's not wise. It's you know, it's spending your capital without it being an investment that's being investigated. So you know, this has the potential to change the entire physical and social fabric of Bowen. And I just hope you understand this. It's incredibly important. And I'm not saying it's a bad idea or a good idea. I'm saying that it needs to be looked at way more carefully, way more carefully, because as has been mentioned, with unintended consequences and so forth. And I would suggest too that, and once this is done, like it won't ever get undone, and you will have an unholy mess trying to control and regulate it. Like, to be specific, I live on Whitetails Drive. Whitetails Drive has changed a bit in nature since I've been there, and it's wonderfully populated with more and more young families with kids. We have a traffic problem there, which we've actually talked to council about before. And I mean, can you imagine, if you know Whitetails, if there were twice as many houses there and 3 times as many people on that road, the consequences, what that would mean? And that's just one small specific example that I'm familiar with because I live on Whitetails. So this really scares me. And so I hope that maybe this will carry over, as someone else suggested again, that maybe this will carry over into the next election and the next term, because it is really worthwhile. There's some great ideas in here, but there's some massive consequences down the road. Thanks for your attention.
Thank you, Ross. Hope, is that it?
That's all for the speakers list.
Excuse me, I've dialed in a little bit late. Can I also make comments still, as Richard Beaversford?
You certainly can, Richard. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. I am on the road and apologize. I'm sweaty and I'm waiting in ferry lineups, but it's an important issue, so I hope to get added to the commentary list, and here I am. I listened carefully to what the previous speakers had to say. I want to be counted amongst those who are opposing this bylaw and a bylaw amendment. And I just want to raise maybe a slightly different point as well, and that's about capacity. Yes, we heard it's an island, is limited capacity. I think we have to become realistic about the capacity we are having now. And I think we're at capacity, if not over. We see our systems, maybe the Snug Cove sewage treatment plant, our water systems in different communities, everything already at capacity, if not beyond. And we've seen very little actually in terms of sustainable ability by the municipality to manage this really well. We are at a crisis point as it is. Adding some 500 more homes to the island is very, very seriously not imaginable, given the difficulties we have with running our current systems and processes. On top of that, I want to maybe remind everybody, and I was shocked to see that there was an E. coli alert in Bowen Bay. I've been associated with Bowen Island since 2012. I've never had that before. And there it is, all of a sudden you have E. coli in Bowen Bay preventing people from swimming there. And I'm wondering if anybody actually figured out where that came from. Is it the cruise ships, or is it our poorly operating wastewater treatment plants or septic fields in that area that contribute to that? And how would that actually look if there is a 1,500 square foot homes on every lot in that area? And what about the runoff from those? And finally, maybe one more comment. I find the limits, or the unlimits, if that's the word, set for this, like no limit in terms of the minimum property size is to be considered, and a 1,500 square foot home. I find these both very extreme and arbitrary, if not reckless. I think, like other people said, there has to be a lot more differentiation in this approach, a lot more detailed research, and I hope that this will be put on the back burner until further and credible analysis has been completed. And that's all I have to say right now. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. Is there anybody else out there that would like to speak? Okay, I will call for a second time for further submissions. Speak now or forever hold your peace. One last time. Is there anybody out there? One last time, I will call a third and final time for any further submissions to this bylaw amendment. And as I don't see any, I will move on and go to the 6.1, which is, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, because I'm got a low battery here, but it doesn't seem to want to. Just close that. And if there's no further public input and council does not wish to have a further staff report, which I don't see any enthusiasm out there for, the recommendation is that all written and verbal submissions regarding Bowen Island Municipality Land Use Bylaw number 57, 2002, Amendment Bylaw number 581, 2022, up to and including July 18th, 2022, be received, and that the public hearing be adjourned. I will move that. Second, I have Michael Kale for a second. And any further discussion? As I don't see any, I will ask the question. All in favor? Aye. 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'm trying to get them all here. Sue Ellen?
In favor.
Okay, thank you. And is there anybody else? David? David was here, wasn't he?
I think he left, yeah, I don't. Yeah, I don't see him in here, so he must have popped out.
He must have fallen out. Okay, so we will take that as the final vote, and that case, the bylaw does move forward, and
No. Our public hearing is adjourned.
and the public hearing is adjourned. Yes, correct, Allison. Thank you, everybody. Enjoy your afternoon, and thank you, everybody.
Gary, could you just,
Thank you.
I'm just concerned about your statement.
Okay.
The adjournment. There's no decision here about the bylaw moving forward.
No, there isn't. Okay, I correct that, Maureen. Thank you.
Right.
Just
So,
the public hearing is adjourned, and that's all we're getting out of this.
Yeah.
Ways to go in the bylaw. Yeah, thank you.
Okay,
Good night,
thank you,
guys.
Maureen.
Rob,
Thank you
go
for
ahead.
making that
Bye.
clear.
Yeah, no, sorry about that. Okay, thank you, everybody.
Bye.
bye.